What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. In the attempt to maintain fairness, this is part 2 of follow-up. The first video being titled, How Trump Can Win the Debate and Potentially Win the Election and Become Our Next President. Well, in the effort to be fair and come at it from both angles, this is for Kamala Harris. Folks, feel free to state in the comments, as always, without any concern of being blocked, banned, or censored, what the hell you think I may get wrong in this video. Just like in regards to former President Trump, we're going to talk about strategies. We're going to talk about how she might attack former President Trump and counterattacks, what she should expect to come from former President Trump during the debate, whereas she may hopefully win and become the 47th president. So, getting right into it, on behalf of Kamala Harris, talking about strategies. Number one, she should just ride the wave. A lot of folks are favoring her. She's gotten a significant bump since Biden dropped out. Little bit of a bump from the Democratic National Convention, the DNC. But I'm going to state what a hell of a lot of folks on the right, particularly MAGA, and even some journalists would certainly not want to hear. Do less interviews. Do less interviews. The less interviews, the better, in my humble opinion. Feel free to state in the comments if you think I'm wrong. The reason why I'm suggesting that is, shout out to former President Trump for doing plenty of interviews, taking the tough questions, and even going into challenging environments like the black convention or whatever the hell that was called, where he went into and they challenged the hell out of him. Why should Kamala Harris not follow in his footsteps? Because it's not working for former President Trump. When you go in these tough environments and they ask tough questions, the other side get to scrutinize the hell out of you, run a hell of a lot of memes, put you all over social media, make commercials about you, and literally make a mockery of you. If Kamala Harris does that, the right will do the same to her. So, in my humble opinion, the less commercials, the better. We're talking like 60 days or less at this point. An interview or two, but I would no way in hell advise Kamala Harris to go on Fox News, just like I wouldn't advise Trump to go on MSNBC. So at this point, unless something changes, I'd advise her to keep the interviews to a minimum. It is working for her. If you look at the polls, Trump is not running away, and neither is Kamala Harris. But the fact is, Trump's doing a lot of interviews. Kamala Harris is not doing many, and Trump is not running away with it. Also, the next one, in regards to strategy, allow the attacks against her to continue. In other words, be a good victim. What I mean by that, if Trump is going to come at her suggesting that she's not black, she's Jamaican, she's part Indian, she's a DEI hire, diversity, equity, and inclusion, suggesting that she's only vice president because of her skin color, because she's a woman, because, whatever the case may be, let them continue doing it. Same with the Willie Brown claims that, she had an affair with Willie Brown. I believe that's confirmed, but you're talking 30, 40 years ago. Let the attacks continue. They're not working for former President Trump, but victimizing her in a way that has not a damn thing to do with policy is working to some degree for Kamala Harris. Some folks are feeling sympathetic, particularly the female audience. Just last week, Trump got on social media and reposted a post suggesting that both Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris had significant changes to their careers due to blowjobs. The women, they don't like that stuff. So in my opinion, Kamala Harris should let the attacks continue. Don't try to downplay it. Let Trump have his way at that, because it's not working for him like it may have in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, and many others. Last but not least, this should be an easy one. Continue to smile, look attractive, shake hands, kiss babies, remain friendly and upbeat. In terms of our economy, getting things back on track in this country, that doesn't do a damn thing for the country and the people. However, with Trump continuing to promote doom and gloom, and she's smiling and shaking hands and kissing babies, some folks do like that. Even though it has nothing to do with the economy, protecting the border, or anything of that sort, Some folks simply like an optimistic candidate as opposed to one who's constantly saying the world is going to end. So she should indeed continue to do that. So that is the strategy. Just chill, go with the flow, and let Trump cause all the disruption. Now we're going to talk about the attacks. We'll talk about the attacks and what she should attack Trump on during the debate, just like we gave advice in the previous video of how Trump should attack her. And then we'll follow up and close it out with how she should be prepared for counterattacks, what's going to come back at her from the Trump campaign and possibly the debate moderators as well. So in regards to attacks, go right at Trump on what is probably the number one issue that she has to fire at him, and that is the belief that women are losing rights. Now I know in the Trump camp, they're suggesting that women are not losing rights at all. It's just merely returning rights back to the states and letting the states decide. Well, the response is, well, if you're a female and you live in a state and you've lost some rights or you don't like how they're doing things, then you should just move to another state. Well, hell, the women in that state being told you should leave your homeland because Trump gave them the right to do something so awful, you now need to move. Women consider that as losing rights. There's no way to phrase this where you're going to convince women that they're not losing rights. Returning to the states, whatever you want to call it. Women believe they are losing rights, and I believe that Kamala Harris has a hell of a lot of currency in throwing that up at former President Trump. Up to the point where Trump is already stating himself back and forth, a woman should have more than 6 rights to choose. Then he's going back and forth with it because he does realize that whole rolling back of Roe v. Wade is really hurting his chances with women. So women losing rights should be the number one attack for Kamala Harris. Number 2, the suggestion that if you elect Trump, it's a threat to democracy. January 6th, all of the melee that has come up since January 6th. Now, many would suggest that former President Trump is often taken out of context, and he's not a threat to democracy at all. People are just taking his statements, editing sound bites, and making it sound awful. Perhaps, but he certainly does give his detractors a whole lot of material. Bloodbaths, dictators on day one. He's making songs with the January 6th choir, offering to pardon everyone, saying it's a good day. We love you, go home. There is a lot of room to take former President Trump out of context. Just last week, he's on social media reposting some kind of caption saying nothing can stop what is coming and suggesting that they're going to come in mass. He gives folks a lot of material to take them out of context if that is what is taking place. So the idea that Trump may be a threat to democracy resonates with a lot of voters. And I'm not just talking about liberals on the left. A hell of a lot of independents and even some traditional Republicans that also feel the same way. Everyone from Ambassador John Bolton to the likes of Liz Cheney to the likes of his own former Vice President Mike Pence. So the idea that it's only liberals that believe Trump is a threat to democracy is patently false. This is a great strategy or point of attack for Kamala Harris. And last but not least, overall chaos. This is one that Nikki Haley tried to use in her attempt to primary former President Trump. Name calling, heavy level of division in this country where families are breaking up, couples are not even wanting to be around each other because one supports Trump and the other one is a liberal. Overall chaos. These are all probably significant methods of attack for Kamala Harris. Let me know in the comments. Did I miss something? Did I overstate one? Perhaps you totally disagree. Feel free to state your opinion in the comments without any concern of being blocked, banned, or censored. I'll even address it in most cases. And last but not least, counterattacks. These are issues that Kamala Harris should be prepared for. If she's doing debate prep, you should damn sure expect Trump to, or the moderator, Trump and or the moderator to launch these attacks, issues at Kamala Harris, and she needs to be ready for this stuff. If she doesn't have an answer for it, she could lose the whole debate and Trump could potentially get reelected. Number one, the border. The border is a huge issue that Americans all over this country feel has literally been left completely open under the Biden administration. And she can't disassociate herself from Biden as vice president because she was given the task of going down to the border. She avoided it for a couple of years, if I'm correct, and even is on video stating there's no real problem at the border. She needs to have an answer for how the border got so far out of control and what she plans to do to correct that. That will absolutely come up in an effort to attack her during the debate. If she doesn't have a legitimate answer for that question, that's a huge strike against her. Number two, the economy. Now, the vice president does not have a lot of control of mechanisms to get the economy back on par. That's all up to the president. Now, by simply being vice president, people are going to suggest she's tied to President Biden. Not necessarily true. You hear folks suggest that Trump gave us one of the best economies in recent history, and they're not giving former President Mike Pence any credit at all. So the idea that Kamala Harris is tied to all the successes and failures of the Biden administration is patently false. Who the hell is celebrating Al Gore or George H.W. Bush as vice president under Ronald Reagan? Nobody, the vice president doesn't really get those accolades because they really don't have that much control to alter what the president is doing. They can offer advice, and that really is about it. They're not passing legislation or by any means in control of the executive branch of government. Next, this one is probably big. I assume it might come up at the debate, and it could certainly be used as a weapon against Kamala Harris. Biden's health and alleged mental decline. Now, Kamala Harris, in addition to most Democrats, right up until Biden stepped down, were constantly stating that he was fine, he could easily do 4 years, etc., etc. Most American voters do not believe that. They believe that the Democratic Party, with Kamala Harris in spot number 2, were completely lying about Biden's cognitive abilities and his health. And the debate on June 27th, in front of a very large audience, showed that what Trump, what Republicans, and even a hell of a lot of Democrats were saying about Biden's cognitive abilities were true. He started stumbling very early on in the debate. The idea that Kamala Harris has numerous videos and statements suggesting there was nothing wrong with him, she probably should have to answer for that if the moderator performs the debate well, and if Trump has been trained well enough, he should challenge her with that. We'll see what happens. If she don't have an answer for that, a lot of Americans are going to think she's a liar. And of course, if you're willing to lie here, what else are you willing to lie on? Next, lack of interviews. Now, I talked about in the beginning that I personally believe it's a good strategy for Kamala Harris in terms of don't go out there and give the detractors a whole lot in terms of interviews to attack you on. But they are going to attack her on the fact she's not doing very many interviews. That is a legitimate attack. Why the hell aren't you out here telling folks about your policies, answering questions about what went wrong at the border, etc., etc., taking tough questions? Should we just elect you and trust that you're going to do what's right without you having to answer any damn questions? That will come up, certainly by former President Trump and likely by the moderators as well. She needs to come up with an answer for that. That will come up. And last but not least, without doing interviews, nobody really knows a lot about your policies. Now, we know she leans left, but how far to the left? Now, obviously, her detractors are going to say she's as far left as Bernie Sanders or even further. But is that true? We don't know because she's not doing interviews stating how she feels on certain policies. Should we continue helping the Ukraine? What about the division between Israel and Palestine? She's kind of said some of this stuff at rallies, but at the end of the day, you need to be challenged from a journalist, from a reporter. What you say at a rally is essentially you being allowed to speak without being challenged at all. You can say any damn thing at a rally, We've seen many clips of Trump stating things and folks say, well, that's not true, or you're just making that up. Well, Kamala Harris is doing the same thing. So not doing interviews leads folks to wonder and guess on your policies. So these are questions that I personally believe that you can use as methods to attack Kamala Harris. But in the comments, what say you? What did I miss? Or perhaps, what do you think I got wrong? As always, feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and who do you think is likely to win this election? 2 months. See you in the next video.